person to listen to anyone continuously for 45 minutes. So let's visualize it. You sitting down and focusing all of your attention on someone that you may or may not have even heard of for the next 45 minutes. For some, this is practically impossible. Even at 10 minutes, it's still challenging. We have so many distractions at our disposal. The main one being our cell phones. Whenever I'm talking at middle school and high schools, it's the number one thing that I battle against. Some kids are listening, some kids are totally glued to their phones, and then some are in between. It's a challenging environment for me because I'm dealing with preteens and teenagers who, for the most part, don't want to be at school and have a lot going on outside of school in their personal lives. That's something that I always know I have to deal with. So in any environment in which your audience may face prominent distractions, how can you keep them engaged? But before we get into how you can keep your audience engaged, let me first say that it doesn't take a lot to get your audience engaged. For the most part, it doesn't matter about the size as well. Many think that when we say getting the audience engaged, we mean getting each audience member talking and contributing in some way. But in all honesty, you only need to engage directly with a couple of people in order for the rest of the audience to jump on board. Now, don't get me wrong, the more people you can engage with, the better. That's a no-brainer. But if for whatever reason you have a hard time with a lot of people, try to focus on one or two people at a time. So exactly how can you interact with the audience? One way that I implement all of the time consists of asking questions. You can do this by simply asking a question and then asking your audience to raise their hand if they agree with it or not. So for example, I may ask students, how many of you want to be a millionaire when you're older? That's a question I know that will garner a big response plus spark interest with my target group. Remember, you also want to ask questions that will help keep your audience's attention. The type of crowd you're talking to along with what you're talking about will shape the questions you ask. You can also ask rhetorical questions and give your audience a couple of seconds to simply think about the answer. If you feel you're funny or extremely confident, you can try telling a joke. Now this can go one or two ways. You can succeed or you can bomb. What's even more interesting is that you honestly don't know which way it'll go until you tell it. It literally leaves you as a speaker on the edge until you deliver the joke. It's all about the setup and delivery though. But in general, a joke will get you feedback, whether it be negative or positive. If you don't feel you're good at telling intentional jokes, then just be yourself. You never know what you may say that will receive a laugh or two. Another obvious way you can interact with the audience is to literally get active with them. You can have them pair together to complete an exercise. You can take anywhere from a couple of minutes to 5 minutes, but the max I would say would be 10 minutes. You want the exercise to correlate with your talk, but you also want your audience to remember what you said during your talk. For example, I was once sitting in on a talk focused around networking. It was about 100 of us in a room. The speaker had us break out into groups of 10 and introduce ourselves to our groups through a 45-second elevator pitch. This gave us all great practice in introducing ourselves to strangers, and it correlated directly with his talk. Now, these are just some of the ways you can interact with your audience during your next talk. I've also given a few more ways in the description that allow you to be interactive with your audience. It doesn't have to be complicated. And if you're not used to interacting, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to get out there and try. You have to figure out what method you are most comfortable with, and you constantly try it. You will see improvement each time, and on top of that, I guarantee it will make yourself and your talk more memorable. If you found this tip useful, please like it and share it. Comment on it as well and let me know what you think. Until next Monday, my name is Julian Leonard and this tip was brought to you by the J Leonard Group.